Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about populations and samples. This is the second recording that I'm attempting to do. Somehow Canvas is really struggling to accept larger size videos, so hence I'm going to have to re-record everything and then at the same time make a lot of smaller videos, and hopefully that will do the trick. So bear with me as we move through this lecture. So populations and samples, as I mentioned already, this is covered very briefly in your textbook. So your textbook does not really, I guess, go over the importance of how we select a population. Well, not a population, but a sample rather, and what is the importance, and it goes more into just running different tests, so on and so forth. So it is very important that you understand the difference between a population and a sample, and also the various sampling techniques that we use in order to gain information, data rather, to collect data. I'm going to be skipping through certain slides to keep this recording shorter. So let's start talking about what is a population. So there's not a strict definition, so it's a set of people, right? A set of objects that have at least one characteristic in common, which means that your population will be different depending what you're trying to study, okay? So a population can be all the people who suffer from osteoporosis, okay? So that would be a specific group of people. They have one common characteristic. That would be having a diagnosis of osteoporosis. So apparently now you're not going to include, so when you think of a population, don't think like US population, okay? I mean, depending the kind of research, okay? So if we're studying, for example, what is the average income for Americans? Maybe we want to start checking socioeconomic status. So maybe then the United States, that's going to be the population of interest, and then from that population we can select people that will make up a sample, okay? So the population will differ depending the type of research question we're asking. Likewise, a sample will differ as well, but your sample will always be dependent on the population of interest. So let's just say that you're really interested on women who have a diagnosis of osteoporosis. Can you go ahead and sample every woman that has osteoporosis? That would be pretty impossible and very expensive, and most likely you're not going to be able to reach out to every single woman, because osteoporosis is pretty common in women, especially once they enter menopause. So imagine how many women there, even if you say they within the United States, still that's a very large number of women. So you're not going to be able to collect data based on your population. Hence, we select a sample. So you can randomly select women that they're above a certain age, right? That they have a diagnosis of osteoporosis, and they will be, so your sample would be a subset of your population, okay? Okay, my throat is wearing off today. All right, so why just study a sample? It's pretty easy, the answer, because we don't have the money, okay? We don't have the resources. Yes, it would be wonderful to reach out to everybody, but it would be very time consuming and it would be very costly. And in all honesty, we know that if you select your sample correctly, it will be pretty representative of your population of interest. So does size matter? It does matter when it comes to sampling techniques. In fact, for quantitative statistics, any sample size below 30, you're going to have to really push it to even get anything meaningful out of it. Again, your sample size will be dependent on the population of interest. So there is a possibility that your population of interest can be very small. For example, let's just say that you're studying a very rare disease and you have a survey that you created, maybe to see how these people fare after a treatment, so on and so forth. So if there are only 10 people in the entire planet that suffer from that rare disease, then your population is going to be pretty small to begin with. So guess what? If you get to interview 3 people in that case, then that would be a representative sample because your population was very small. So how do we say how much of a sample? There is a formula that we use. Okay, you don't have to worry about this in this course since it's an introductory statistics course. But essentially, when we're looking, like for example, I did my dissertation research in Oklahoma. Specifically, I went in Pawnee, Oklahoma, which is a pretty rural area. And I had to look at the number of people that reside on that area. And then I used the formula with a 95% confidence interval to determine what is the minimum number of people that I need to interview in order to even take me seriously. Because otherwise, if I did my analysis and I didn't have a big enough sample, they would say to me, forget about it, Georgia, this is not good enough. You cannot generalize your findings, let's just say, because the truth is that when I went there, I faced tornadoes, severe floodings. My personal belongings got flooded. It was just horrible. And I was driving 150 miles per day in severe weather to get to my participants. So guess what? It was very difficult. I was there for 3 months and I barely made it to the number that I needed to do my research, okay? But again, you cannot just do whatever you want. It will be dependent on your population of interest. Now, what happens if how you select your sample, okay, is not the correct way, it's not representative of your population? Most likely your statistics are gonna be way off. We're having an election coming up, and guess what? There's a lot of polls going on right now because there's a lot of money involved. A lot of people want to know, is Trump's going to win? Who's winning? But the great example is back in 1936, okay? So you can read, there's a link here if you want to read about it. But anyhow, the Leadership Digest poll went and predicted that Alfred Landon would win the election when in fact Roosevelt ended up winning. So what did they do wrong? Well, they interviewed the wrong people. Instead of randomly selecting people, okay, Americans, they went and they selected people from their viewers, from the people who had subscription to their magazines. And guess what? The majority of them were supporters of Alfred Landon, but that is not representative of all Americans because not all of Americans can afford that, okay? So the people who subscribe to this particular magazine, they had a higher disposable income. So when they ran their analysis based on their sample, they said, that's it, Alfred Landon will win. But he didn't, okay? So again, it is very important, the sample, to be representative of your population of interest. Otherwise, garbage in, garbage out. So again, what is a representative sample? A representative sample would be one that matches your population of interest as closely as possible in the majority of the characteristics. Okay, so if there's anything that sticks out very different, because again, a society, right, depending what you're studying, it's going to be normally distributed, but sometimes you have extreme outliers. If you go and collect information from those outliers, right, they're not going to be representative from your average. Hence, whatever data you're collecting from them, your findings not going to be generalizable to your population of interest. Let's see an example here. Okay, so I'm interested in studying the length of adult dolphins. I find a pod of 500 dolphins, okay, to pull my sample from. Which of those choices you have? A, 15 adult dolphins, B, 300 female dolphins, C, 250 adult male and female dolphins and 400 juvenile dolphins. So which one would be your best bet? So you're studying, okay, length of adult dolphins. So you may want to pause here and think. That means if you want to study adult dolphins, I would eliminate the juvenile and anything that too small. For A, for example, is only 15 adult dolphins. Your sample size is way too small. Okay, so that's not going to be representative. So A, we eliminate it. 300 female dolphins. Well, 300 female dolphins, those are adult, okay, but they're mostly female. You have no idea what the remaining 200 is. Are they all, juvenile dolphins? You just do not know. 250 though, okay, that's a pretty good sample size, and they're all adult dolphins. You have a mixture of both male and female. Now that would be pretty representative for that research question that you're asking. And finally, the 400 juvenile dolphins, that seems like a high number, so sample size here is high, but then these are not representative for what you're trying to study because juvenile dolphins have not reached their full length yet. Okay, so whatever measurement you're going to get from them, it's going to be wrong. All right, so what is an important characteristic to look for in a sample if you're doing a study on the incidence of osteoporosis? Well, what do we know for osteoporosis? Mostly female, right? So you're looking at an advanced age. You're not really going to see a 20-year-old suffering from osteoporosis. Most likely female, okay? You're looking at estrogen and testosterone decreases because usually when you get osteoporosis is when your hormones start changing. That's going to be around the perimenopause and menopause stage, okay? And maybe you want to look at, being Asian or European heritage simply because we know that those ethnic groups suffer greatly from osteoporosis. All right, so anytime you have a research question, you're going to say what I'm trying to find, who is representative for that particular question. Likewise, if we're studying depression, here we're looking at age, who suffers the most, family history, okay? Family history plays a huge role in depression. Social and familial support, drug use, these are all factors that can contribute. So when we select our sample, we have to be cognizant of the various factors that can affect or interfere with our findings, okay? And finally, for general opinions about health-related topics among CSUF students. So again, age will play a role here because we're talking about students. So I'm not going to go to your grandma and grandpa and ask them about what they think their concerns are simply because they happen to live close by or not, okay? Gender, ethnicity, cultural background. So this is what I want you to be aware, that the way we select our sample is very important. If we select our sample the most convenient way just to get things done, most likely we're gonna come up with findings that they're meaningless. And I can tell you as a researcher, there's a lot of poor research out there. Unless you haven't taken a lot of statistics and a lot of methodological courses, you will not realize. And unfortunately, some of those studies somehow do not know if they have connections or not. They make it to the media. And you really need to understand sampling techniques and in order to evaluate how accurate those findings are, okay? So again, these are things that you need to be aware as we move forward into the semester. So I'm going to stop this recording here, and then the next video you should be looking for is the sampling techniques, all right?